by the clock black center, where history calls. Two old souls with so much to say. Fred and Mario, they hang every day, teaching lessons you can't learn in class, about life, love, and times that pass. Oh, the wisdom they bring. You can read all the books you want, study till your mind goes numb, but the truth lies in the streets below, where Fred and Mario show you what they know. The wisest guys don't need no history books. They got knowledge that the teachers overlook. Every evening by the Alamo, Fred and Mario, let their wisdom flow. Let it flow, let it flow.
En las calles San Antonio, donde las historias fluyen como el río. Two men sharing what they've seen, making sense of everything in between. No necesitas un profesor, but street wisdom opens every door.
That's right, that's right. You can search through every page, try to understand every age, but the truth comes from the soul of those who watch this city grow. Wisest guys don't need no history books. Oh, they got knowledge that the teachers overlook. Every evening by the Alamo, Fred and Mario, let their wisdom flow. Let it flow.
Listen up, let me break it down for you. Fred taught me more than any classroom ever could do, about respect, integrity, and keeping it real, while Mario showed me how survival feels. They speak about struggles, victories, and pride, stories of people who lived and died by these mission walls where heroes fell, but the real heroes got different stories to tell. Some folks think wisdom comes from degrees, but these wise guys got PhDs in these streets. Every word they speak hits harder than facts, about community, unity, and having each other's backs. Y'all can keep your textbooks in your fancy schools. These men right here follow different rules, living history, breathing right before my eyes. That's why I say these are the wisest guys.
Oh, sometimes the greatest teachers don't stand behind no desk. Sometimes the deepest knowledge comes from the streets of the West.
Let it flow one last time.
Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Black Life Texas News Magazine, your go-to source for informative, creative, and engaging news. With 85 convenient locations throughout San Antonio, Black Life Texas News Magazine brings you the latest updates on politics, social justice, culture, entertainment, and more. From thought-provoking articles to inspiring profiles, we cover the topics that matter most to you. Stay informed, connected, and inspired with our in-depth analysis and coverage of critical issues affecting the Black community. But we don't stop there. Black Life Texas News Magazine is your guide to upcoming events, festivals, and exhibitions that celebrate African American heritage and promote unity. Don't miss another copy. Subscribe today for convenient home delivery. Get your hands on Black Life Texas News Magazine and be part of the conversation that matters most to our community. Black Life Texas.
Oh, was that you singing?
No, I actually sung a bunch of other songs before that. My voice gave out.
Okay, that was good. I'm Chris Dawkins, and obviously I'm not Fred Williams. I'm filling in for the great Fred Williams today, and I'm Chris Dawkins. I'm also the co-host of Contemporary Black Voices. Wow, I had a kind of a brain fart there. But anyway, I'm filling in for Fred today, who's out of town, and he'll be back next week. I was viewing Mario from last week, where you said in closing that you would have some new information about voting in San Antonio, and I'd like for you to go through that first, if you can.
Okay, and maybe we can pop up the stats. I'll give you a little explanation before we, while we're doing that. The stats will come from the Center for Research, Opinion Research for the University of Texas, and so the poll is not biased in any favor of any one candidate. This is just what the respondents said, and about 700 people were called, and that's a good number because you only need about 10% of what the total number of people that probably will vote to give you a pretty decent poll. So right now it's at about 70,000. So, well, there you go. The 700 is a good number. But what I wanted to talk about is what's surprising for some people is the Gina Jones is out front, and this poll was done this month, by the way, for April. And when the poll was first done back in February, most people, and I think might have been us included, Chris, we didn't, more than half the people on this list, nobody ever heard of them.
That's correct.
Yeah, so the voters were going like, I never heard of that guy. I never heard none of them. So a lot of them have no name ID, and they still don't have any name ID. But Gina Jones had a lot of name ID before she ever jumped into this. Because she ran
Because of her running previously.
Yeah, she ran for a different office, a federal office. And so she is out front at the present time. And look, this is a scientific poll. This ain't an opinion poll. The name of the center is Public Opinion. That doesn't mean that the poll is an opinion. The poll is scientific numbers. So Gina Jones is out front. John Courage is making a strong headway for coming in second. And that's because he used to be the councilman over in District 9, so his name is familiar. Beto, some people are confusing him with Beto O'Rourke.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why his name is out there, but a lot of people don't know him. Manny Pelez is not doing very well, and I know that would have something to do with the black vote because he's a lot of people have made the complaint that he's in the back pocket of the police union. So he's getting a lot of money from the police union. And by the way, some of the candidates that are getting money from the police union are not doing well at all. And so that they have a problem. The big one, though, is Rolando Pablos, who we've now come to understand he's got millions of dollars from the governor, Greg Abbott. Money will pump up your campaign, but in the long run, it might be hurtful when people find out that Greg Abbott, who's a staunch Donald Trump supporter, is pushing this guy. So if you're behind Rolando Pablo, you probably don't even know you're behind Donald Trump at the same time.
Right.
And look, Fred, last time Fred brought up the point that all across the country, Republican MAGA supporters are running people, running Republicans, running Trump Republicans in local races because they're trying to obviously get rid of blue cities. So that's why we have Tim Wesley running, who's black. Now, they're always trying to find somebody black or somebody brown to get up there and tap dance for them, I guess. But we're kind of hip to that. By the way, Chris, we're still woke, by the way. And so, Tim Wesley, I'm woke to you, buddy. So he's a Republican. I heard that he was at Cornerstone Church, and boy, that's a dead giveaway of who.
Well, that's the church he goes to.
Well, that's a dead giveaway of the problem he's got. And then, of course, somebody said that he was over there dropping the microphone, I guess, in opposition to DEI. So, and every candidate should have been asked that. When we go to a runoff, and it looks like that, given that there's 27 people running, we need to ask we need to have an accountability and ask each candidate in the runoff, what is your position on DEI? And then that way we can bust the Trump Republican if any of them get in there. But looking at the numbers across the screen, Gene Ortiz is number one. John Courage comes in second. Beto Altamirano comes in third. Manny Pelez fourth. And Pablo is still down there, but he did surge because he was had nothing in the beginning. And that money pushed him forward somewhat.
Mario,
yeah.
Let me ask you something about this poll. What's the difference between the black line and the orange line?
Oh, the orange is the February poll. The black is the April poll. So if you're looking at orange, that's where they were in February, and the black is where they are about now.
So with John Courage, it showed that he lost a little ground.
He lost a little ground and probably lost it to Pablos or Gene Ortiz.
Mm-hmm.
So Courage lost it. But keep in mind, this is a poll that, polls change by the day.
Right.
Yeah, and when your polls tell you one thing and then tomorrow tell you something else. But look, at 7 o'clock Saturday, the main election, right? The big one where all these other people on this list is just going to disappear because they don't have any footage at all. And look, I'm not trying to make fun of them, but I guess I am. I don't even know why they decided to run it. They don't have no footage. They don't have no name ID other than none of them are writing books, I don't think. So it's not about books. So, man, I don't know what it's about. It's about, bragging to their girlfriends or something. I don't know what.
I was going to ask you, why do you think all of these people are running?
Well, one thing I've always noticed, every time there's some election that's kind of big, all these people that are not from here, they might just jump into the race and just, and a lot of them are from here. So, but some of them are not really from here and they just think they can win. Or they don't have any roots here. They might be from here but have no roots here. That Tim Wesley has no real roots here. And the black community doesn't have any to speak of. He may probably have some, but not to speak of. And then all these other people, and I just love Chris Herring, and that's my boy, but you'd have to ask him why he decided to run. I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't know what he said. But, people do that, and they have a right to do it. Don't get me wrong. Anybody has a right to run for something. But realistically speaking, for what? Man, you wasted a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of your time and et cetera, only to wind up with nothing. And it doesn't mean you're going to get a boost because you ran one time and think that's going to help you in the next time, there's an election. It generally doesn't pan out that way. Doesn't pan out that way. You might make a name for yourself, but only in a very small way. Because if you're only trying to make a name for yourself by running for office and not doing the work in the community, you're not making a name for yourself.
Well, Mario, help me out a little bit. You've been on city council, and when the mayor is we have a weak government, and you're familiar with that?
Oh yeah, we have a council manager form.
Right. So,
Sweet,
so my
sweet.
question is what are the responsibilities of the mayor?
Well, the mayor has the bully pulpit. You know, I'm the mayor, so what I have to say means something.
Right.
And the mayor generally is someone who can round up votes, so he has that power. But the fact that we're weak is a good point because look, there's 11 people on the city council.
Right.
If the mayor doesn't have 6 votes, he can't do nothing.
Okay.
And no other city council member can do anything. Without 6 votes, you can't do anything. So what does that result in? You got to make deals with people you can't stand. You got
Right.
to you got to trade votes. They call it trading votes. You want my support, you're going to have to support me on something. And that's what makes it weak. Houston, totally different story. That's a strong mayor form. Yeah.
Right. Is it so? Is it in Texas? Is it a law, or each particular city can be weak or strong depending on their choice?
They can do that by will of the voters, by city
Okay.
charter. You have a
Okay.
city charter. We could change ours tomorrow to a strong mayor form if the voters wanted to do that. So that's done by local. Houston some time ago decided to go strong mayor. And you know the good news about strong mayor, I kind of like that better because if you're a city councilman, like say you're Jalen Rodriguez, the black councilman in Houston, he makes all the decisions for what goes on in his district.
Right.
Here, you got to have 6 votes. You ain't got 6 votes, you ain't going to get nothing for your district. So that's a huge difference. And I think eventually, or at some point in history, maybe we'll go to a strong mayor, and that's, I think, a better system.
Well, I think that's important for people to understand because if they don't understand that, the people always believe that the word mayor means he's running the city. And that is not always the truth.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. And in our case, if you don't have 6, the mayor has no more power than the councilman sitting next to him in terms of voting power.
So he's only a glorified council person.
Yeah, well, you know, he cuts the ribbons. It's a stepping stone to run for something else. You know, you can claim I'm the mayor and then run for senator.
Right.
Yeah, so it is a stepping stone. It does mean you have the mic. If the mayor calls the press, they're going to come faster than if one of the council members calls the press. So there's some benefits to being the mayor. There's some power, the bully pulpit power, but as far as having any more power than the councilman next to you, he only has 1 vote, and you got to have 6 to do anything.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen on Saturday and who's actually going to be in the runoff, both for the mayor and for especially for us who live in District 2, and to see how that's going. But Mario, you were telling me Mario gave me all the rules of what we do on this show or what they do on the show, and he said at 6 we got to take a break. So it seems like it's break time.
When I came back from the war, I was barely hanging on by a thread. I'm here today because of Tanya's relentless efforts in trying to get me healed. And says, Michael, I know you've got a plan to take your life today, but if you give me just 5 more minutes to love you. 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, honey, 5 more minutes to love.
Michael has actually taught me what it looks like to accept help.
The bravest person I know is definitely my dad, 100%.
My friend Sean.
My daughter Cynthia, and she was in the United States Army.
One of the bravest things he ever did wasn't when he first enlisted, it was when he found his first support group.
Our journey has not been easy.
One of the bravest things he did was when he asked to move in with me and my mom.
I felt like I was lost, and you gave me a place to stay.
When he decided he was going to go back to school after 23 years.
It was the better part of my life that I spent in the Marine Corps. Transitioning out, it's a difficult thing.
She went on foreign soil. She went to war. But the bravest thing she did is when she asked for help.
So I really appreciate it.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because I felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
People couldn't see my potential, so I had to show them.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
Today, I'm the CEO of my own company.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
Why are we not rethinking this?
I am more.
I'm more
than who I am on paper.
Black Life Texas News Magazine, your go-to source for informative, creative, and engaging news. With 85 convenient locations throughout San Antonio, Black Life Texas News Magazine brings you the latest updates on politics, social justice, culture, entertainment, and more. From thought-provoking articles to inspiring profiles, we cover the topics that matter most to you. Stay informed, connected, and inspired with our in-depth analysis and coverage of critical issues affecting the Black community. But we don't stop there. Black Life Texas News Magazine is your guide to upcoming events, festivals, and exhibitions that celebrate African American heritage and promote unity. Don't miss another copy. Subscribe today for convenient home delivery. Get your hands on Black Life Texas News Magazine and be part of the conversation that matters most to our community. Black Life Texas.
And we're back. We're back with Wise Guys. I'm Chris Dawkins, and I'm filling in for the great Professor Fred Williams. And we've got Mario Salas on the other end of the Wise Guys. And we were talking about the election before, but I'd like to move into maybe a little bit of a different topic. First of all, before we get into one of the things I'd like to talk about, Mario, I want to ask, what are we going to do as a country? I mean, we've got a real serious problem right now, and I don't know what we can do. I talked to somebody else who's dear and near to both of us, and he says, well, we're waiting on the Supreme Court. And it's kind of like we're always waiting on something else to happen for us to be able to do something. So, you know, I don't know. I don't put any faith right now for myself in the Supreme Court. So I don't know what can be done. Help me out with this.
Well, I'll try. Last weekend, and when we're expecting another big event coming up on, I think, May 1st, but on April 19th, I believe it was, and even before that time, there's been hundreds of thousands of people hitting the streets demonstrating against Donald Trump. And it seems to be growing and growing and growing. And it's going to get bigger, in my opinion, as people begin to realize they made a horrible mistake for voting for this guy to begin with. So it looks like the battle may end up in the street. And when it ends up in the street, let me tell you, those Republican congressmen, they start sweating bullets, because when it winds up in the street, many of their constituents are going to the street with the rest of the protesters. And
well, Mario, let me say this. I think there's only two ways that America can look at this. Are we going to be a country of laws, or are we going to be a country under laws of Donald Trump? And that's the choice that we got to make.
Yeah, and I guess I guess we're supposed to be scared and threatened that we might wind up with shaved heads and bent over in El Salvador. But yeah, I mean that's a scare tactic, and it's horrible what he's doing with that. And that guy that they sent over there by mistake is still there. So they moved him to a
And
better
he's
place.
defying the courts.
Yeah.
All the courts, he's defying that. And then they've got a new thing that's going on with the I think it's the schools, and Amy Barrett Coney, I think, said she's recusing herself. So we'll see how that goes as well. But that takes me into what I want to talk about. There was this Chinese guy, and he says that America needs a revolution. He said, forget about the tariffs and everything like that. He says, for decades, the United States government has shipped our jobs and manufacturing to China, only to exploit cheap labor. He says they hollowed out our middle class, and China and America made money. He said, but the difference is that China used their money to reinvest in their people, while American oligarchs bought jets, yachts, and mansions. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's for certain that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. There's that calculus stays with us all the time, and simply because the society we live in glorifies, having wealth. And then the people who actually have the wealth, and I'm talking about I'm not talking about Oprah Winfrey wealth. Her wealth is that big compared to Exxon Mobil.
Right.
Yeah, it's nothing compared to the big oligarchs, you could call them. And
she got Chris Herring wealth compared to those.
There you go. It's nothing, and so we've always had the problem of the very wealthy telling the government and putting in lobbying money here and there to influence congressmen and senators to pass legislation that benefits them. It's always about benefiting them. And I don't know, some of them are the laziest people on earth. Donald Trump he hasn't worked for his money. He inherited that money. Elon Musk, same thing, inherited the money from his father, that, by the way, who is a Nazi supporter, who has an emerald mine in South Africa.
Wow.
So these very rich people, they tend to be very lazy. It kind of reminds when it makes me think of slavery too. The laziest people on earth were slave owners. Lazy as I don't know what. Now, they wasn't going to pick any cotton. They wasn't going to chop any wood. They might have done that before they got slaves, and after that, they just turned into a bunch of lazy slobs. So we have the problem of people who don't want to work, want to hire and fire people whenever they get ready, don't want to give people decent living wages, so they become richer and richer, and where people suffer. It makes no sense to have, if you don't have insurance, you can't afford insurance, to pay $400 for one pill when you have cancer. When in Canada, they only pay $10 for no matter what kind of pills they are.
And Mario, we give, I think, Israel, I don't know what the number is, $8 million a year. And
that's a lot.
And they have, I didn't say, I think I said million, I meant billion. And they have free health care, but we can't afford it.
No, that would they'd be crying all night about something like that. And it has to do, I guess, when you look in the past, it has to do with the so-called Protestant work ethic. I know a lot of people work very hard and they're not going to become rich because they're prevented from, there's a borderline there. You're not going to be able to cross that borderline. I know people worked in the Ford plant and, worked hard all their life and then got a really small pension when they retired. So working hard doesn't guarantee you success like they want everybody to believe.
Hey, Mario, you're a religious guy. Tell me those people who say God is going to save us. What do you say?
Well, well, that's a good point. The Bible also says religion or beliefs are worthless without action.
Right.
So you can believe all you want, but if you're not doing nothing to change the world or to change your situation, then what good is it? You can believe in whatever you want, but if you're not doing something to change the world for the better, then your religion is worthless.
So what can the people do to change this?
Well, there's always the street. Like I said, to influence the voters, you got to get out there and march. The marching still counts. People started making up stories at one point talking about marching doesn't do anything. Man, marching got us all the civil rights. Marching got us everything. So, and marching.
And you still think it works today?
Yeah, it can change voters' minds. I mean, in protest. And think about it. The last town hall meeting I saw, and I'm sure you saw it too, it was a Republican town hall meeting, and they were cursing that Republicans cursing out Trump Republicans.
That was a guy in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's demonstrating. They're demonstrating against Republicans, and these are Republicans doing it against. So let me tell you that the congressional elections, when they come up, the Republicans, I think, are going to start losing their seats. We're going to see some reversing here now, because Republicans are worried about losing their Social Security, worried about losing their Medicaid, worried about all kinds of stuff, and farmers are in deep trouble.
And senior citizens.
Yeah. Yeah, and Trump he ain't doing nothing. He's making all those promises. Yeah, I mean, if you roll the tape back, you can see Trump promising the price of goods and groceries is going to go down my first days in office. He hasn't done nothing. This guy's done nothing but talk. He's a big talker.
Only 5 bills has he signed.
Yeah, the big talker.
Right.
So
I'm just wondering. You seem to have some hope for the people, and I want to have hope for the people, but I don't know what we can do. You say go march to or go and take it to the streets.
Go to town hall meetings. Go to town hall meetings.
Okay.
Blast that congressman.
And you also talked about midterm elections. I'm not convinced that there's going to be a midterm election.
Trump. Well, Adolf Hitler stopped the elections after he got in there. People make the argument that's what Hitler. I'm sorry, I got him mixed up in my mind. Freudian slip. That's what Donald Trump is trying to do. And if he could, he would try and be president again until he can't walk. He's coming down the ramp at the airport a lot slower. He's starting to look like Joe Biden coming down that plant, down the ramp now. He's getting older and older, and he ain't going to be here forever. Nobody is. So, yeah. So I mean, he wants to create some kind of dictatorship. It's called fascism. It's a dictatorship.
Right.
And, yeah, and I hear your pessimism, but it's grounded in fact, because this guy is trying to make himself a dictator. Where the Supreme Court doesn't count, where he can disobey the law, where he can rape people, he can do whatever he wants, and nothing ever happens to him.
Yeah, because I don't think, I was talking to Fred about this, and Fred seems to think that, I said, well, Michael Johnson, that's his name, isn't it?
No, you're talking about the Speaker of the House?
Yeah.
Yeah, just call him Johnson.
Johnson, yeah.
I don't care what his first name is.
I can't call him just Johnson because that's a black term.
Well, well, call him the Speaker. That Speaker.
Okay.
You talk about a wimp. He's a wimp too.
Right. But he's not ever going to bring anything to the House like an impeachment or anything like that. I don't see any of that happening.
Well, I don't see the impeachment, anything like that happening either. But I do see a rebellion in the Republican ranks about what Trump wants to do. You're starting to see that already too, where a few that you wouldn't think vote against what Trump wants to do, and they're starting to look at not doing that. You can only push them so far, and the moment they start to fill their own voters, like say they come from a strong Republican district, and those Republicans are starting to ask those congressmen, why'd you vote for that? Because Trump said so? No, you need to vote what your constituents want.
That's right.
We're starting to see that rumbling going on. And I'm a little bit more optimistic. I think that rumbling is going to turn into a thunderstorm at some point.
Well, I hope that, that rumbling that you talk about, I really would like to see it really happen or work into something. But as it relates to if he decides to have a midterm election, then I think then that's when the people can really speak. If there's a midterm election.
Yeah, well, that's true. We'll see. The taste of how good the pudding is always in the taste.
Right, that's
So
right.
we'll see what happens with that. But you're right. It don't look good. I agree. It doesn't look good, especially with a guy who wants to copy Hitler. He just made a couple of bad mistakes. His favorite book. His own sister said his favorite book is Mein Kampf, which is Hitler's autobiography. And the problem with Trump is he doesn't realize this is not 1933. We aren't Germans. we didn't lose the First World War. So he has his history all messed up. So what happened in Germany does not necessarily mean that's going to happen here. But I think that's what he's thinking about. And he was always on this tariff bandwagon ever since he was a young kid or a young man. He was on this tariff bandwagon about we're being ripped off by all these other countries and with the tariff situation. And so he's like so stuck on that, he's not even realizing that he's damaging America. He's damaging Americans with his stuck on ideology that he can't get out of his head.
But does he care?
Does what?
Does he care?
Well, I don't think he cares about nothing but himself.
Right.
That's it. He only cares about himself and Mar-a-Lago, Mar-a-Skunko, or whatever you want to call it. But that's all he cares about. And people, I think, are beginning to see the light a little. There's a little crack in the door. I'm hoping that midterm elections, somebody kicks the door in and makes some of them wake up.
What's I want to ask you a little housekeeping stuff because I don't know. How long do we go on this segment?
How long do we go on what?
On this particular segment.
Oh, I don't know, as long as we want.
Okay, cool. Then I want to ask you about Carmelo Anthony. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, Fred brought that up in the first show we did.
Oh, did he?
And that's not the basketball player.
No, it's not.
No, and he doesn't even spell his name the same way.
He spells it with a K.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's a sad situation. And I told Fred that Fred wanted to support the guy and everything. I said, yeah, but look, what's the name of that town? Frisco, Texas?
Yeah. That's where the Cowboys practice.
Which Cowboys? The football team or the crazy Trump Cowboys?
The football team.
Yeah, well, and think about that. In a little bitty town like that, right?
Yeah.
You got a lot of racism in these little bitty Texas towns. So I don't know what that young man was feeling. Who knows what he was feeling? How many times was he called the N-word? Why was he carrying a knife? Probably because he suffered racism is my guess, because in a small town like that, oh man, it's full of racists. It's full of people who don't like you saying bad things about their God, Donald Trump. And so we don't know that background. And so I'm not so quick to condemn him. I think I would have just got up and left rather than stabbing somebody. So Fred had a good point about that. Sure, I would have got up and left. But how did the guy come to him? Chris, I could tell you, Chris, you need to move because your car's blocking the driveway, and would you please move? Or I could say, Chris, you need to move that car right now.
Right.
So how did that other boy come at him? If he came at him in a threatening tone, well, when you do this to somebody, that means you're coming at him in a threatening way. So he defended himself. So I'd like to know all that I'd like to know all that background.
I haven't been able to collaborate this, but I heard that the white guy that he stabbed, the white boy he stabbed, that his coach told this guy he could lay in the tent because it was raining. But I think if the case really is fair, then this kid should get off, because everything that he did is with the stand your ground law that is in Texas.
Yeah.
So I think that he should get off. But if he doesn't get off, in my opinion, it's because they're stacking the deck against him.
Yeah. Do we have to leave now? You just getting warmed up, Chris. Is it time for us to get out of here?
Is it time? I don't know. That's why I was asking you.
Yeah, wrap it up. I heard somebody hollering in the background. What?
Well, what do you have to say, Mario, before we end this?
Well, I think we've said enough. We've said enough.
Okay.
Maybe if we're not here next week, folks, I guess we got our heads shaved and we're on our way to El Salvador. But I think we've said enough. We're dealing with a dictator. It's pretty obvious to me, and I think I'm done with that part.
Well, next week you'll have Fred Williams back, and I want to say it's been a joy to, as the kids would say, Mario, to chop it up with you and to be able to talk about this. I like the format. I like what you guys are doing, and I really like that song at the beginning, man. I mean, I think you guys might have a #1 hit.
Yeah, I'll sing it a little better for you next time.
All right. Well, this is Chris Dawkins and Mario Salas signing off for the Wise Guys.
We're still wise and still woke, too.